This is an important question, okay? So when it comes to democracy, are we succeeding? Here in America, do we have a democracy that works, that functions? Rule in the majority. Do we even have the majority rule? The majority get their say. Or the minority get their say, but the majority get their way. But do the majority get their way? Well, this last presidential election, the majority of the people didn't even vote. So the majority of the people didn't even weigh in. The majority of the people said, fuck this system, I'm not participating in it, either because of some, smart protest, which I would say is probably about 1%, or 50% of the other public who has, they got jobs, they got to work, they got poverty, got a lot of things that's in front of them. They haven't looked at the candidates, they hadn't had time, they didn't have the internet, so they don't know who's running. And so there's a lot of educational, civics, that's a different batch than the 1% who say, you know what, I understand the system, but I think it's bullshit, so I don't participate because there's no choices. There's no choices, so why should I go and actually, make this thing worse? George Carlin had a bit, and the bit was, some people say that if you vote, then you have a right to bitch. He says, no, you don't, and then the inverse is true. If you don't vote, then you can't bitch. Well, you should have voted, you can't bitch. That's so stupid. George Carlin says that's really dumb because those who voted are the ones who actually put these politicians into office. The 50%, over 50% of the population, while they did not vote, you cannot say that they're responsible for Trump becoming president. The ones who voted for Trump are the ones who are responsible for Trump becoming president, not the ones who did not vote. So I see elections, in two different ways. I think that voting is it's a sacred institution. We should vote. People have died for our right to vote, so I think it's important for the people to weigh in. But here in the American system, we have, in the Democratic primary, we got superdelegates. In the general election, we got electoral college. And then, like I said, over 50% of the public do not vote. And that should be the number one main problem that we should be trying to fix. Over half the country doesn't fucking vote. So I've come up with a couple ideas for that. You can have a lottery. One person gets $1 million. I bet that'll encourage the vote. You could do like Australia, just make a vote, pass a law. Everybody has to fucking vote. Or, let's see, you could have ranked choice voting. You could actually have the actual, true blue democracy. You get to keep your winner-take-all system, unlike the parliamentary democracies. So we're not going to be doing the parliamentary democracies, but still keep winner-take-all. But now, all the fucking shitlery supporters, all the goddamn right-wing corporate imperialist assholes, now you got to respect the independents. You got to respect the independents and the third parties. It's where all the good ideas come from. But see, some people they can't think past their own fucking face, right? It's like, well, it's either Trump or Hillary, we gotta vote for one of them. Well, if you're one of those people, then you have a very small fucking brain. You have a very myopic worldview. There's 37 states that are safe states. So if you were voting in Alabama, if you voted for Donald Trump in Alabama, well, shit, Trump was already going to win. Why'd you go vote for him? And then Hillary was already going to lose. Why'd you vote for her? Why did Alabama even have an election when it came to the presidential election? Alabama's a safe state, but there's 36 other safe states. So with the safe states, we don't have a true blue democracy because we don't have an actual choice. Then with the Electoral College, we literally don't have the vote. We literally don't have the vote. When it comes to the Electoral College, that is the body that is going to refine the rabbles, stupid-ass opinion. So if the rabble picks a dumbass like Trump, then the Electoral College can chuck that vote out and then pick somebody else in there, one that they think is good enough. It's very much for the aristocrats. It's very much for the 1% class, the way our Byzantine electoral system was set up. So we have an electoral college. So literally, traditionally, the electoral college will vote the same way that the state voted. But it's all the electoral college votes for the winner. So the state picks their one, the whole state. It doesn't matter if it was like 51-49. The loser gets 0 electoral college votes. 0. Except for Nebraska and Maine. I think those are the 2 exceptions. So Nebraska and Maine are the only 2 that do proportional with the Electoral College. So that's, that's controversial. But I think ultimately, the simple fucking fact, this is something that, I don't give a shit about Hillary, but what is a good point when it comes to Hillary is that she did win the popular vote. She won the popular vote. How many fucking times are we going to see the one candidate win the popular vote, but the Electoral College overturns the will of the people, and we get some other fucking asshole in there? The Electoral College is so fucking anti-democratic, it's not even funny. It's not even funny. You literally, every single American, your vote literally doesn't fucking matter. Your vote is a suggestion for the Electoral College, just a suggestion. So if they wanted to, they call them faithless electors. But if the Electoral College members, which if you're Electoral College members, okay, you got a right to vote. Only those who are part of the Electoral College were the ones who voted. That's it. Were you Electoral College member? Oh, okay. So you didn't, your vote didn't fucking matter. It was a nice suggestion for those who are in the Electoral College. So every single American that was not part of the Electoral College, your fucking vote did not matter. It did not fucking matter whatsoever. It didn't count. Now also, we only have one vote, right? How many times has elections come down to one vote? So again, let's go back to Alabama. Your one fucking vote didn't put Trump over the top, and it wouldn't have saved Hillary. So could you have done more things besides voting to have increased your power? If you're in Alabama, what could you have done that would have increased your power? Well, there's a lot of things that you could have done. I've been a candidate, and as a candidate myself, when someone says, I'm going to vote for you, well, they may or they may not, right? Anybody could just tell you that they're going to vote for them. So a vote is something, a promised vote. You want to get in mass, right? Your one vote is, statistically insignificant, but if you can increase your voter block, if you can get part of some sort of non-profit citizen group or neighborhood group or some civic organization or social organization that multiplies your one vote to 100, well, now you're 100 votes. You're a 100 voting block. Now you're a person to be reckoned with. You're not just one individual, out in the crowd. You're not just one drop out in the ocean. You're a tour de force, right? You're a tour de force. So there's plenty of things that a person could do that increases their political power. You can increase your voting block. You can donate, okay? So as a candidate, $100 could go so much farther for me than your promised vote that you may or may not do in the future. Anybody can promise, right, oh, I'm going to vote for you. Oh, I'm going to vote for you too. That's another thing. He votes, she votes, we vote, they profit. So, they tell us that it's so important, that it's the most important election of our lifetimes. They get us all out to go vote. But ultimately, what fucking changes do we see? We're still at war. We're still corporate. Still, one percenters, big business. This entire culture is not designed for you and me. It's designed for you and I to compete and, some sink, some swim, right? So if you happen to be homeless and you have nothing to eat, well, sorry about your fucking luck, right? I guess you failed this American capitalist experiment. Go get a job, you bum. That's what, some people say. So you can increase your power as a candidate. I would want your donations. I would more like your support. I would want your support. Hey, go vote for this guy. Your comments, increase my, pass out my messages, encourage discussions with me, try to, do letter to the editor. There's a lot of things that a person can do that increases their political power. Now, that's the political power. When it comes to straight up what is power and what is not power, well, Trump bombed fucking Syria, right? A whole bunch of, 60 airstrikes or some shit. That's power. Mao Zedong said power comes out of a barrel of a gun. So there's fascist power, do as the fuck as I say, or violence is going to happen. Or then there's money. Money is power. So in terms of voting, in fact, you had Alison Grimes. Alison Lundergan Grimes, she would not admit that she had voted for Obama. She's a Democrat. It was between McCain and Obama, but Obama's very unpopular in Kentucky. So the Secretary of State, Alison Grimes, who was running against Mitch McConnell, absolutely refused to admit that she voted for Obama. And then they, sort of jumped up and down on that. So in terms of how voting got her power, it didn't get her power. And very much it was a liability. Voting was a liability for her. Right? So, and then I looked at Gorsuch, Neil Gorsuch, I looked at his just path to power. He was like a law clerk for a while. He worked for some private law firm. He was a law clerk for some, David B. Centel and Brian White and Anthony Kennedy. So he was a law clerk for other judges that either were elected or had been appointed, right? Supreme Court's all appointed. He was appointed to the position, so he didn't win an election. He didn't win your, the American people's support whatsoever. He didn't even ask for your fucking vote. And did he even vote all those years? Probably not. Probably didn't even fucking vote all those years. Maybe he did. But he did not get to become a Supreme Court justice because he was a consistent voter, right? He votes every November. He's such a good voter. That wasn't even discussed. That wasn't even mentioned. That should be something. I think that should be fucking important. I remember this one time that I was being confronted by a fucking fascist, and I was trying to prove to him I was a good guy. I was like, look, I obey the law. I pay my taxes. I vote. And then he says, my son doesn't vote. Okay, well, your son's a shitty citizen. I do my fucking duty as a citizen, So he fucked me over. But, so in terms of actual true blue power is when you have power over other people. So if I got $20, I could go into a Wendy's and tell them to make me my food. I have a kind of power. I can tell them to make my food. Now, I can't really tell them to, let me search through their shit or get down on the ground and, so a cop who is investigating something, that's power, right? So Philando Castile, I very much am sitting right there. I know what it feels like to be, I don't know exactly what it feels like, but I empathize with Philando Castile. I am not, whoever the fuck was on that jury that said, you know what, we identify with the cop. I don't get you guys. I don't get you fascist fucking pricks. I do not get you. So, Philando Castile, he says, hey, I just want to tell you, like I'm supposed to, I do have a firearm, and then he goes to get his ID or something, the guy freaks the fuck out, and he had his hand on the gun as soon as he mentioned a firearm. He's like, a firearm? He was so fucking nice. He did what he was supposed to do, look, as part of the carry concealed gun club. When the police officer is there, you're supposed to be polite and nice and just say, for your safety and mine, I'm just letting you know that I do have a firearm in the vehicle, which is what you're supposed to do. Trevor Noah is absolutely right to criticize the NRA for not going after this shit. But that's where I identify with. There's been, the Candace Redis or something, some guy in Alabama. There's been lots of white people that got fucking shot by cops. So when it comes to understanding my, socio-economical, sort of my global, how I fit in this world, I'm more Philando Castile than I am the cop, than I am the girlfriend, than I am the, passers-by. I am Philando Castile. I am Philando Castile. And what this means is if you don't understand my life, okay, you want to sit there and try to criticize me and try to say, well, you're against democracy, you're against voting, how are you going to vote for a candidate if, I mentioned you could also become a candidate. You want to talk about real power? Become a candidate. Now you're a voice. That's way more power than just voting. Be the voice, and the criticism was this. So wait, we're supposed to run for office, but we're not supposed to get anybody to vote for us? What? Is that what the fuck I said? That isn't what the fuck I said. That's disrespectful. The person had no concern for me, nor were we going to have an action plan. She's not going to increase voter turnout rate. She's not going to stop police brutality. She's not going to stop the war. She's going to fucking just bitch. She's going to fucking bitch about this and that. She's a Hillary Clinton supporter. She'll be the last person that will ever understand what the fuck she did. She fucked this country. So, and she hated third parties and independents. So, ranked choice voting, how do we get ranked choice voting? This is an important conversation. How do we get ranked choice voting? It makes me think of, like, black people on the plantation. How do black people get the right to vote? If you have no rights whatsoever, just hope the whites vote for the whites, the right whites, the righteous whites. And if you're a woman, how did the women get the right to vote, right? Can you use the election, the ballot box, to get voting rights? Well, it took, for black people, a civil fucking war. And then for women, they took a kind of protest. I watched Suffragettes that took that lady running out into the middle of, the horse race. So people had to die. They had to do nonviolent, in-your-face resistance, some MLK right there in your face sort of resistance. So that's the thing with ranked choice voting. So we don't have a fair election in the United States. Our elections are not fair. They are rigged. You know, there could be outright diabolic fucking hacking and shit, but just the way our system is supposed to run, it's not fucking fair. The Electoral College is bullshit. The superdelegates is bullshit. The way that we push out independents and third parties, we have a, you know, a drought of good ideas. We have a, where are all of the good ideas going to come from? They're just going to regurgitate the two big parties. They're just going to regurgitate, you know, the same bullshit that they've been saying the whole fucking time. So, raw power, when you have money, right, I go to Arby's, say, make me a sandwich. With money, I make that person do what I want. I didn't vote. I didn't go, you know, I didn't do anything. In fact, the only thing in order to get that power was for me to get some money. So just get some money. You want some power? Just get some money. And then when it comes to sort of thuggish, fascist power, become a cop. Become a police officer. You could shoot Philando Castile and you'll get away with it. You'll still have a job. You'll have a paid vacation. You'll have the court system, the prosecutors, the judges. They'll all be backing you. People are saying, oh my God, I can't believe, why is this happening? There is a racist element to it, but there's police brutality. We live in a police state. And then the prosecutors and the judges and everybody else fucking back their fucking boys up, you know, the thin blue line. They're the front lines. They're almost their own branch. The cops are their own branch. They commit whatever crimes they want, and then they get the judicial branch to cover their asses up. And I feel like it's the exact opposite thinking. The people in power think, well, hell, if this one cop goes down, then the rest of these cops might go down. But, or, you know, then the whole thing will just explode. Or people will see that you're not truly a good person. You're going around murdering people, and you're not going and instituting justice. It's only about the fucking state power. So since it's only about state power, who gives a shit? Right? I mean, if it's only about state power, then that means they are not going after justice. They're not protecting and serving us. And that would, I would think, that would make the whole thing explode. Right? You're not here to protect and serve us. You could shoot us at will. And nobody does anything about it. And when it comes to the courts, I mean, everybody puts their thumb on the scale, just like how they beat Bernie Sanders. They didn't outright cheat him, but they did, right? So I had a police brutality trial, and they were allowed to put some of my old videos that I had, you know, criticized the cops on, but they weren't allowed to mention that I had $100,000 worth of medical bills. They weren't allowed to mention that I will have to endure, you know, the pain and the damage that happened to me on that, you know, December 2012 for the rest of my life. There's also a re-traumatizing that. I don't want to go around saying, you know, that's fucking horrible, that sucks. But when a Kentucky jury, a Louisville jury, said that they didn't think that was a crime for what happened to me, police violence, and then jailer violence, including a sexual assault. So, America, you think that's okay? You think that's okay? It's okay to rape, and it's okay to use violence, it's okay to murder? I'm not like you assholes. I absolutely am not. Fuck you all. I have a sense of morality. Do unto others as you had them do unto you. And if you think that anybody, if those cops, if that cop who killed Philando Castile, if he got raped, if he had violence, if he got shot and murdered, you got a problem with that? Donald Trump says death penalty for anybody that shoots a cop. But if a cop shoots one of us, not a death penalty. Why? There was no threat, there was no danger. He was fucking trigger happy, he was fucking scared. Maybe the guy being black had something to do with it, but I could totally see that exact same situation unfolding with a white guy. White guy says, I got a gun, you know, in my belt, and cop gets scared and shoots him. It's happened several times. There's a, you know, there was that valedictorian that got shot. I think it was University of Texas, and then there was University of Alabama. There was this naked guy running around, and then there was that valedictorian. He didn't. What the fuck? He was just argumentative. And then the other guy, the fucking Bryce Masters, 17-year-old Bryce Masters, had a little bit of weed on him. Skinny, nice kid. They threw him down on the ground, on the curb, give him a curb job. He's dead for 8 fucking minutes. He's a white guy. I don't remember any outrage with either one of them. But I don't want to compare and contrast too much because ultimately my point is police brutality is bullshit. We need to fucking stop this shit. We need to have citizen councils that go, you know, that check the police. So we have citizen councils that check the police. We could also have better training, because we need good cops. We need good cops on the street. If they're just another group of thugs, then they're giving the example to all the other thugs exactly how you're supposed to operate, right? Shoot first, ask questions later. Well, fuck, you're setting the example, and that's really, really shitty. So that's power. That's power, right? That's fascist power. Do as the hell as I say, or else there's going to be violence. And then there's money is power. Power is power. The state has a monopoly on violence, so they think they can do as the fuck as they please. But that's just the thing. When the state is murdering people, then you blur the line between good and evil, and they're the bad guys. They're murdering. That's the worst crime you could do. You guys are in favor of fucking murder? Okay. Fuck you. That's what that fucking Val Boyles was in favor of, a warmonger. You like wars? You're in favor of war? So that's my understanding. Voting is a sacred institution that needs to be defended. The democracy troops, the democracy soldiers, that's what they're calling the American troops in Syria, or our group. And I love that. The soldiers of democracy. I'm a soldier of democracy. So fucking A, man. I believe in democracy, but I look around America and I very much feel alone in my quest for democracy. Majority rules. And in fact, I don't want us to just vote just for representatives, but I'd like to see town hall meetings. We all get together and we vote on every single issue. That's impossible. That's the dream. So I'm always in favor of increasing democracy, never for less democracy. But we don't even have a fair democracy. We don't even have a fucking fair democracy. And so how do we get ranked choice voting? How did black people get the right to vote? How did women get the right to vote? You know, you can't really, can you do it through the ballot box? I guess you elected Abraham Lincoln, right? You elected all those representatives that eventually got the 19th Amendment put on the ballot. So yeah, in a way, you probably could change things by voting the right people in. But like ranked choice voting, how do you get a fucking fair system when the system isn't fair to begin with? If you could get somebody to get in there, say they run as a Republican, and they believe in ranked choice voting, and then they win, now we have to trust that they'll implement ranked choice voting. They just won under the Republican ticket, so why would they increase competition? Because they promised beforehand? I don't think you can take any of the promises that candidates make beforehand worth a grain of salt. That gives you an idea of what they're going to do, but you can't say they definitely will do it, right? Obama never closed Guantanamo Bay. He also said that marijuana, the point of smoking is to get high. That's the point. So, you know, when it comes to democracy, the biggest problem that we need to fix in America is first we need a democracy. And so if we actually get a democracy, then that 50% plus the majority of the American people that do not vote in our elections, then they'll actually get a chance. They'll actually get a say-so. Their votes will matter, and their voice will be heard. In Puerto Rico, there was a 25% turnout rate. There's a 25% turnout rate, and then 80% is the general turnout rate. Well, the opposition had boycotted the Puerto Rican vote, and so only 25% of the Puerto Ricans had voted to become a state because the majority of the opposition said this was a bullshit election. And so I think they have that holds water. That holds water. 97% of Puerto Ricans wanted statehood. No, that was not a fair election. That's like a dictator election. 97%, that's too much. 97%, that's too fucking much. So that's how people looked at Puerto Rico. And that's the way international observers, anybody who understands politics, they looked at Puerto Rico and they said that vote is amazing. Wow, they all want to become fucking Americans. Well, it turns out they all don't. The election was bullshit and the majority of the people didn't vote. So only 25% of the people had voted when it should have been 80%. So therefore, you know, 55% of the people who traditionally vote didn't vote. So therefore, that fucking vote is bullshit. Because 55% of the people that traditionally voted who didn't vote, because it wasn't 80%, it was only a 25% turnout rate. In America, if you get 13%, it doesn't fucking matter. That's Kentucky. Kentucky got 13% turnout rate, and that's how we got a governor that voted for the leader of the state, 13%. That's fucking nuts. Puerto Rico has a higher threshold for whether their democracy is, you know, working or not. We don't give a fuck here at all. 13% vote, so that means 80 fucking 7%. 87% of Kentuckians do not participate, but nobody saw that as a fucking problem. And then people would be like, well, you gotta vote, you gotta vote, you gotta vote. You know, if there's no options and it's pointless and your voice never matters and your vote doesn't fucking count, you want to vote for Jill Stein, people fucking, you know, get ranked choice voting. With ranked choice voting, you have to respect independents, and then the independents have to respect the other ones because you want to get their other votes. So instead of being like, oh my God, Jill Stein is the worst fucking piece of shit ever, really? Fuck you until the day I die. I'm still proud of my Jill Stein vote, and I'll always be proud of my Jill Stein vote till the day I die. Jill Stein, my God, what a fucking world would we have had if Jill Stein would have become president? What a fucking world. But you said she's a piece of shit. You said she was garbage. Democrats, Hillary supporters. You said she was fucking garbage. So that's what power is, when you have control over another person. When it comes to voting, Gorsuch didn't become the fucking Supreme Court justice because he was a good voter. He did it because he angled himself, he got a job, and he, you know, was basically kissed ass to the people that was in power. Got into a law firm, was in his own private practice, making a shit ton of fucking money, suing, you know, him and her to make as much money for himself. It had nothing to do with his voting habits at all. So when it comes to actual power, extra power is money, and extra power would be fascist, violent power. So eminent domain, right? That's the governor. 13% of Kentuckians voted for the governor. Now if the governor says we need a pipeline, that's power. Everybody's going to have to sell their fucking land that's en route of that pipeline in order for it to get built. That's power. Being able to deprive people of their liberty, deprive people of their rights, to make people, right, power is when you make other people do what you want them to do. So, you know, this whole conversation, this whole argument actually came from a man named Doug Drummond. He was like a hacker or something. I think he was. He had a weird fucking profile picture, but apparently he took, you know, offense. And his whole point was James Thomas Hodgkinson, this weirdo, this guy that shot up the Capitol, you know, the fucking congressman. He was sitting there saying that he killed nobody. He killed nobody. And that's absolutely true. He killed zero. And that's important because when you compare it to the 10,000 people in Yemen who's being killed, when you compare it to the 23 million Americans that the Republicans are going to kill by throwing them off of health care, well, zero is zero. Nobody died. Nobody died by that fucker's shooting. But 10,000 people died in Yemen, and then 23 million Americans are eventually going to die of fucking health ailments because health is life. So, you know, I think ranked choice voting solves pretty much everything. It keeps the majority system winner take all, and then you just, by ranking them, the algorithm just keeps bumping them off, redistributing the votes until eventually you get a majority. So the majority always wins. Nobody wins with a plurality. The majority wins. And then you have to respect independents and third parties. It's encouraging of everybody. Everybody gets a fair fucking chance. I could vote for my Jill Stein #1. You want my vote? You want my #2 vote? Talk to me fucking nice. You don't talk to me nice? Fuck you. Why the fuck should I vote for a warmongering corporatist? You're assholes. You guys are all a bunch of assholes. And when the Green Party finally begins to change shit, you assholes will be the last ones on fucking board. So you're just as bad as Republicans as far as I'm fucking concerned. The two-party system is fucked, and I'll continue to vote my protest vote. And, you know, in hopes that maybe some way, someday, people will actually fucking say, let's all do this. Let's do this. So, yeah, that's my overall understanding. You know, I'm mad as hell. I can't take it anymore. I'm mad as hell. I'm not going to take it anymore. But I didn't start the fire. The fire's been burning since the world's been turning. So, and then there's a generational divide. There's a generational divide. The baby boomers had a very easy fucking life. They had to spend $100 for college. $100 for college. For their fucking, that's it. I'm $100,000. You only paid $100. They got Social Security right now, totally guaranteed, totally safe. All the baby boomer working class is paying them to sit on their ass so they can bitch and be like, you should have voted for Hillary. You're just an asshole, right? You've just been bitching off into the side your whole fucking life. You've been off in the cubby hole your entire life, and I'm supposed to do what you tell me? Yeah, fuck you. And you're probably just repeating what you saw in Bill Maher. Bill Maher says you guys are a bunch of assholes. Well, I think Bill Maher's an asshole. And he also called himself a house slave, right? That's the term. That's what it means. Which means he's going to rat me out.